Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. Inshallah, brothers and sisters, today what I'd like to do is go through the reality of Halloween, okay? And this is something that's very important because unfortunately, we've chosen to live in the West. We've chosen to live with the kuffar. Either, we chose on our own accord, or our parents came here and we're here as a result of that. So it's important for us to know the reality of the disbelievers and the things that they engage in, the festivals that they partake in, so that you can know your boundaries and you can know what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. And the reason for this is because the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man tashabbaha biqawmin fahuwa minhum." Anyone who imitates a group of people, he is now from that group of people. He's from them. You imitate the disbelievers, you are now at risk of being from the disbelievers. Allah Azza wa Jalla said in the Quran, وَمَن يَتَوَلَّهُم مِّنكُمْ فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ. Anyone from amongst you who allies and sides and joins those disbelievers, if you do that, then you're now a part of them. You're from them. You're from their camp. You're from their party. You're from their team. Does that make sense? Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, he's got a book called Iqtida' as-Sirat al-Mustaqim, a book which is about the path of the Muslims and the path of the disbelievers. It's about the path of the Muslims and how the Muslims are not allowed to follow the disbelievers. There's a whole book about not imitating the kuffar. In this book he explains what it means when the Prophet said, if you imitate the kuffar, you're from the kuffar. What it means when Allah said, if you ally with the kuffar, you are now from the kuffar. What does it mean? He said, if you imitate them in their kufr, if you imitate the disbelievers in their disbelief, then now you are a disbeliever. But if you imitate them in their sin, then now you are a sinner. So, if you imitate the disbeliever in terms of sins that the disbelievers do, that doesn't make you a disbeliever. It makes you close to that path where you're imitating them, you're following them. But it doesn't make you a disbeliever. But if you imitate them in their kufr, if you imitate them in their disbelief, then that now can make you a disbeliever. That can make you a disbeliever. And that's why it's very important for us to understand, because we chose to live with these people. I have to know the things they do which are kufr, so I can stay away from them. I have to know the things that they do which are sins, so I can stay away from them. But knowing at least the difference between this is kufr, this is a sin, allows me to navigate. That's kufr, that's very dangerous. This here, it's not kufr. It's still dangerous, but it's not kufr. And then I also need to know the things that the disbelievers they do, and it's not a sin, and it's not kufr, and it's not specific to them, and that I'm allowed to do. For example, wearing a jacket. Did the disbelievers wear jackets? Did the Muslims wear jackets? Is it considered imitating the disbelievers if I wear a jacket? No, because it's something not specific to them. It's not something that they have that's unique for them. But if I was to wear, for example, what the priests wear, they have the special collars on their shirts. That's something specific to a group of disbelievers. Specific to what? A group of disbelievers, who are the kuffar, the Christians. What if I was to wear an item of clothing or a style of clothing that's specific to a certain type of sinner who's a disbeliever? For example, wearing the trousers low. Who wears their trousers low? Who wears their trousers low? People on the streets. People are drug dealers. People are gangbangers. Criminals wear their trousers low. So now I'm imitating them in their sin. Does that make sense? And sometimes they're wearing something, and it's not specific to sinners, When you see, for example, a man wearing a suit, can you say, oh, that's specific to a sin, a particular kind of criminal? That's specific to a particular type of evil? No, it's just a dress sense that's been adopted by all of the world. So that wouldn't fall into imitating the kuffar. Does that make sense? So then there's levels. There's kufr, there's sin. The sin is what? Stuff that they do which is sinful, or stuff it will be sinful for you if you follow them in it because it's something that's specific for them. Only they do it. Only the kuffar are known for this. It might not be kufr, but it's still sinful for you to do it. And then there's the lowest level, which is to do things that the kuffar might do, but it's not specific to the kuffar. If you imitate them, if you do it, it's not specific for them. Everyone does it. And that's like wearing jackets, wearing suits, or whatever have you. Does that make sense? So then a question comes to mind, Halloween. Is it something that's specific to the kuffar? Oh, it definitely is. It started here in the UK, back in the Celtic times. Before even the Romans conquered, in the Celtic times, BC, the time they say is, what? Sorry, before Common Era, before, you know what BC is, right? I just don't want to say what it stands for because shirk. Before Christ, that's what they say, innit? We don't like to go by their dates and whatever have you. But that time, back then, it started. So it's definitely something specific to the kuffar. Muslims never did it. Now we have to ask ourselves, is the celebration and the engaging in this festival called Halloween, is it something that is kufri? Is it something based upon disbelief? Or is it something just based upon sin? Definitely, it's at least a sin to do it. Why? Because it's specific to them. And the Prophet said, "Man tashabbaha biqawmin fahuwa minhum." Anyone who imitates the people is from them. Allah Azza wa Jalla warned the Prophet ﷺ. He said, "Wala in ittaba'ta ahwa'ahum." Muhammad, if you follow their desires, Muhammad, if you follow them, Muhammad, if you imitate them, after knowledge came to you, مَا لَكَ مِنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ وَلِيٍّ وَلَا وَاقٍ. No one's going to be there to save you, Muhammad. No one's going to be there to help you. No one's going to be there to protect you. Allah is saying that to the Prophet ﷺ. If you follow them, if you follow these disbelievers, after knowledge came to you, oh Muhammad, no one's going to be able to help you, spare you from Allah. No one's going to save you from Allah. No one's going to be able to protect you from Allah. That's Allah talking to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And Allah loved him the most. And Allah's talking to him tough like that. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, what about me and you? What about me and you? So definitely, it's a sin at the very least to celebrate Halloween. But like when we look at Halloween and we study it and we understand what Halloween is, then we can ask ourselves, is it just a sin? Or is it something that's founded upon kufr? Firstly, let's define what kufr is. It is ma yudadu al-iman. It is anything that goes against iman. So anything that's based upon shirk, which is worshipping another God besides Allah, this would be now kufr. And kufr is broader than just shirk. Shirk is a type of kufr. But as Muslims, you should all know what kufr is. If we don't know what kufr is, then subhanAllah, what are we doing? We have to at least, I'm sure we all know what kufr is. And the main example of kufr, and the greatest and most dangerous example of kufr is shirk, which is to worship another God besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, we have to ask ourselves, is the celebration of Halloween based upon shirk or is it based upon kufr? Now the ulama, they say, الْحُكْمُ عَلَى شَيْءٍ فَرْعٌ عَنْ تَسَوُّرِهِ. That the ruling on a particular thing is based on understanding the reality of that thing. So before we can place a ruling and say Halloween is kufr or Halloween is a sin, we have to understand what is Halloween, where did it come from, what is the historical background of this day. And that's what I want to present to you today, inshallah ta'ala. Halloween is something that started off known as the festival of Samhain. Samhain was a festival that the Celtic people used to engage in on the 31st of October. They had divided their calendar into two halves. Their year was split into two. it was the dark part of the year and the light part of the year. And the 31st of October was the signification of the beginning and the start of the darkness in the year. Because obviously winter's come and the days have become longer, so shorter, and the night has become longer. So they used to have all these superstitious beliefs that on the 31st of October, the souls of the people who are dead would be unleashed. And those people will be able to come back from the dead, and they'll be able to haunt you, and they'll be able to terrorize you. And spirits and demons from different realms and different worlds would on that day be able to access the human realm. And sometimes they believed humans would be lost and be locked up inside of those other worlds on this night, because the veil, the covering between the living and the dead was at its thinnest, was at its most fragile. And at that point, the transition between those who were dead and those who were alive could happen. So the people would light a massive fire, they would burn a fire, and they would try to call out to these dead, sometimes worship them, sometimes pray to them to try to make them what? To try to make them leave them alone. And as we know, that the Prophet ﷺ said, "Ad-du'a huwa al-ibadah," that dua is worship. So calling out to anyone who is not present or is not listening to you, can't hear you, someone who's not alive, someone who's dead, or someone who doesn't have the ability to give you what you're asking, this is shirk. Hayyun hadirun bima yaqdiru alayh. This is a principle, remember this, brothers and sisters. If I ever want to ask someone for something, if I want to call someone for help, I can only call someone who's hayy, alive. If I call someone who's dead, this is shirk billahi azza wa jal. I have to call someone who's hadir, present. And if you're not physically sitting here, right here with me, you have to be able to hear me. If I pick up the phone, I call you, you're on the other side of the world, it's fine. As long as you're present with me on the phone, you can hear me. And if I'm sitting here and I say, and I got a friend who's over in Scotland, and I say, "Hey, Abdullah from Scotland, can you help me?" And I know he can't hear me, this is shirk. I committed shirk akbar on the spot. And the third thing is that I have to call and ask someone. If I ask him for help, it has to be something he has the ability to do. بِمَا يَقْدِرُ عَلَيْهِ. I cannot ask him, give me a child. I can only ask Allah for that. I can't ask him to give me a cure. I can only ask Allah for that. Does that make sense? So, حَيٌّ حَاضِرٌ بِمَا يَقْدِرُ عَلَيْهِ. Now these people who are calling out to dead people on the festival of Salem, on the 31st of October, were they calling out to anyone that was alive? Were they calling out to anyone that was present? And did they have the ability to protect them from the evil they were trying to ward off? All three they didn't have, which means they were doing shirkul akbar. So that's how this festival started. Okay, good. Good. But how did it get known as Halloween? And where did the name Halloween come from? Where did this name come from? How did it go from the festival of Salem? And how did it become known as the festival of trick-or-treating and pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns and masks? And where's all of this coming from? It came from the Christians. You see, something very interesting that you need to know about Christianity is that Christianity, and this is why Islam is very much against bid'ah. Bid'ah, which is innovation, bringing anything new into the religion. Because remember, the Christians, they used to be Muslim. They were Muslim. They used to be Muslim. They used to follow Isa alayhi salam. They used to follow him. And they used to worship Allah Azza wa Jalla alone. So they used to be Muslim. But they changed their religion so much that Christianity became a completely different religion. So bid'ah, innovation, changing the religion, adding new things, newly invented matters into the religion, it changes it. The Salaf al-Salih used to say that every time a bid'ah is brought into Islam, a sunnah dies. You add something new, that the Islam's already full. If you bring something new, that means something that was sunnah, you have to throw it out. And you kept adding new things, throwing out things that were part of the deen until the whole religion transformed and it changed. So Christianity, this was their problem. Christianity, this is what they fell into. They fell into bid'ah. And one of the ways that they would fall into bid'ah is that they would basically take pagan festivals, pagan holidays, pagan religious. When I say pagan, you know what pagan is, right? It's idolatry. People used to worship statues and all these funny things. They used to take these pagan traditions, pagan religious ideas, pagan religious festivals, and they used to adopt them. Why? Because they said people are not accepting Christianity. They're not converting. Why? Because Christianity is too different to them. So what we will do is we will take some of the pagan festivals and religious elements and we will twist them and give them a Christian understanding. And one of the very famous examples of this is Christmas. 25th of December was the day, they say, the sun god, the Persian sun god, Mithras, was sent onto earth, born of a virgin. He was a sun god, the son of God. And he came to die for people's sins. Ooh. Does that not sound a bit like Christianity in Jesus and their beliefs in Jesus? They got it from the pagans. They got it from the Persian pagans. This is history, wallahi. Just read the books. Just give it a quick Google online. What is the origin of the pagan origin of Christianity? They tell you the god of Mithras. It's all in there. So how did Christianity adopt it? It's because the Roman Empire was crucifying and slaughtering and spilling the blood of Christians. But then there was a man called Constantine who was a Roman emperor. And he decided to adopt Christianity. Why? Because Christianity, even though it wasn't the majority, it was growing. And he realized and he saw that this religion is going to grow. So if I'm going to retain my power and I'm going to retain my empire, I need to embrace this religion. So he embraced Christianity, and from that Catholicism was born. The Catholic Church was born. And the proof that he wasn't sincere in his conversion to Christianity was that he never got baptized until just moments before he died. 20, 30 years he took Christianity, he never got baptized. He never took it seriously. It was just for politics. And when he did that and he adopted Christianity, what did he do? He started to work with the Christian priests, and they wanted Christianity to spread in the rest of the Roman Empire. But he realized that it's not going to spread because the Romans are pagan people. They've got their traditions and their practices, and they're not going to change like that. So they said, okay, I tell you what, let's take some of our pagan rituals and make Christianity linked to them. So they started to say, you guys already believe the 25th of December is the day that the son of God, Mithras, was sent into earth, born of the virgin. You know what? We'll just say Jesus is the son of God. We'll say Jesus, we'll say our Jesus that we follow, we'll just make him your God, and the same thing. And then the pagans were like, oh, it's the same thing. So when you're telling me Jesus and Mithras are the same, no problem. I'll jump in. So it's the same religion. And that's what it was like. And that's what Christianity would always do. And I'm oversimplifying, and I'm really kind of just not going into detail with Christianity and explaining the nuances, because my objective is not really Christianity, it's Halloween. So maybe when it comes down to Christmas, we'll go into that in more detail. But on the issue of Halloween, how did they come to this pagan festival of Salem and convert that into what we know as Halloween today? Basically, again, when the church was spreading, they were trying to convince pagans to become Christian. And they were always looking for the festivals that the pagans did, that they could Christonify them, if that's even a word. So they could Christonify these festivals. So there was a festival that the Christians used to do, which was called the Festival of Lemuria. Lemuria was on the 13th of May. And it was the day in which the pagans used to believe that the people who are dead would come out and they would haunt people. It was the day that the dead would come out and they would haunt people. So the people on the day of Lemuria would call out to the dead. They would make dua to the dead. They would try to please the dead. They would go into the graves of the dead people and they would do what? They would pour milk on there. They would leave cakes on their graves to try and make the dead people happy so that they wouldn't haunt them. They would believe spirits and demons would come out on this day. So Christianity was like, okay, look, I mean, that's a bit too mad, even for us. How do we take this day and flip it into a Christian version? They changed it to All Saints Day. Put your hand up if you've heard of All Saints Day. All Saints Day is the Christian celebration of good Christians who died. Good Christians who died, they celebrate their death on that day. So they said, okay, we're still going to have a day about the dead. Have a day where you call out to the dead and you speak to dead. But it's just not going to be the evil dead. It's going to be the righteous Christian saints, the peers, the walis of the Christians. We're gonna make the day about them. And here's what they did, because they still wanted to attract the pagans. So after they got that day, they moved the All Saints Day from the 13th, they moved it to the 1st of November. And now, Assalamu alaikum. Now All Saints Day, brothers pay attention. Now All Saints Day is on the 1st of November. Now another word for saint is hallow. Hallow. So they didn't call it All Saints Day, they called it All Hallows Day. Hallow means sacred and it means saint. So they called All Saints Day All Hallows Day. Now the 31st of October is the night before All Hallows Day. In other words, it became known as the Eve of Hallows Day. The Eve of Hallows Day. Like Christmas Eve, this became the Eve of Hallows Day. And then that became shortened to Hallows Evening. And that became shortened to Halloween. And that's where it came from. The term Halloween. Now on the 2nd of November, the church decided to go one step further and they said, we're going to have a day to celebrate all of the Christian souls that have died. So they called that Souls Day. All Souls Day. And on this day, children and beggars would go knocking on people's doors. Why? I'll come to it. But I missed the point which is very important. All Souls Day, the priests used to tell the people to do something specific. Because if you know about Catholicism and you know about Christianity, they have a belief that people die and they go to paradise or they go to hell. But there's also a third. They believe that there is a stage between paradise and hell. The world and the afterlife. If the afterlife is paradise and hell, then and this world, in between there is a stage called purgatory. Purgatory is al-manzilatu bayna al-manzilatayn. It's the station between the two stations. It's the stage between the two stages. And these souls were stuck and they were trapped. So the priests would tell people, on this day, on All Souls Day, make dua, pray for these souls, because the only way for them to leave purgatory and go to Jannah and go to paradise is for you to pray for them. So pray for these souls on that day, so that people would pray. Now what happened is that people who are beggars, children who are beggars, they thought, oh, I know what to do. Let's go knocking on people's doors. Ask them for food. Specifically, they used to get cakes. They were called soul cakes, made with spice and filled with raisins. And they would say, please give us cakes and we will pray for the souls that are dead. We'll pray for the souls that are dead, so they can go to paradise. So people would give them cakes and they would what? They would make dua, their shirki, kufri dua, to pray for the souls who are dead. This later became known as trick or treat. And the sad, Assalamu alaikum, and the sad and disgusting thing is that we will take our children, or you will allow your brothers and your sisters and your nephews and your nieces to go out and trick or treat as kids. Number one, begging, kuffar, for sweets. Number two, engaging in a filthy, disgusting, despicable, shirky, kufri, pagan practice. A Christian pagan practice of praying for the dead who are in purgatory. Now, what happened? How did all of this come together though? Because these are individual incidences. The Day of the Dead, the day of what? The day of trick-or-treating, the day of wearing masks, the day of pumpkins. Where's all this coming from? There's a little bit more that you have to understand. So the question comes to mind, how did this pagan Christian festival, how did it transform to the point where it became the commercial festival, Halloween as we know it today? So now our history lesson takes us over to America, to the United States of America. The America was now seen as the new world. It was the new world, it was the beginning of a new era. For the first time, people had ventured to that part of the world. American history doesn't start until the 1600s. Prior to that, we don't know much about, except for the Red Indians or the Native Americans that were around that area. So when these people went over there, they went there fresh with new ideas. They didn't take that pagan stuff with them. They were called Puritans. They wanted to purify Christianity back to its original state. So they didn't bring these things. Now, when these people went there, there was a lot of Irish immigrants and Scottish immigrants and people from the UK that actually went over towards America. And when they went to America, they brought with them some of that pagan baggage and that pagan culture and that pagan tradition that they had. And they started to bring these Halloween kind of practices. But it still wasn't big. And it wasn't seen as something that was famous or known. It wasn't a common practice across the United States of America up until the end of the American Civil War. And what's the relationship between Halloween and the American Civil War? You see, when the American Civil War happened, it was a bloodbath. 500,000 people were killed in a space of about 4 years. Having 500,000 bodies, 500,000 people killed back in those days when the world's population wasn't even that big is massive. So when the people died, there was a lot of talk about death. And soldiers went to war, they were killed, and many of them were never even buried after. And they were not even recognized. Your son, your child, your husband, your father might go for war. You don't even know if he died. His body would have never even been identified. So there was this culture that was spreading, which was that the soldiers will come back from the dead to visit us because they haven't been buried yet. So they still roam on the earth. They've not been put in their graves, so they still roam the earth. So then our dads, our sons, our husbands, they're going to come back to us one day. So there was a lot of talk about this, and this was spreading. And it was spreading at the same time. The Irish immigrants who had come, they brought that Halloween culture with them, and then it came and it hit together. And in the 31st of October became known as that day where the spirits are going to come back and they're going to visit us. It became known as that day when the people are going to come back and they're going to visit us. And that's how Halloween started off in America. So what about the pumpkin? Where did the pumpkin come from? And again, to show you, these are little things that me and you take easy. You know, you might even have a pumpkin outside your house. Because maybe you're practicing, but your family members are not. Maybe even you got a family member inside your house who's carving pumpkins. Maybe you got nephews and nieces, aunties, uncles, cousins who do this. They're uploading pictures on Halloween. Now you need to, seriously start doing something when it comes to your family members to make sure they stay away from these filthy practices. Let me show you where it came from. There was a legend that there was a man called Jack. And Jack was an evil man. He was very, very, very much a troublemaker. And he was in hell. In fact, he was so bad that the devil kicked him out of hell. He said, you're too bad for us. But Satan, Shaitan, Iblis, they say, he felt some pity for him. When he kicked him out of hell, he took one of the embers of the hellfire. An ember is a burning piece of coal. He gave it to him. He said, this is for you, take this with you as a little souvenir when you leave hell. So Jack, he found a turnip. He cut the turnip in half, he made a hollow hole inside of it, and he placed the ember from hell inside of it. And he used to walk with it as a lantern, so he could see through the darkness when he used to make trouble on earth. Hence the name Jack-o'-lantern. Jack-o'-lantern, that's where it came from. Now, as the years progressed and things transpired and they moved on, the turnip was small. So they started to get pumpkins. Why pumpkins? Because during the 31st of October is when the new season harvest happens. And round about that time is when what? A lot of the pumpkins come out. The pumpkins come out of the ground at that time. So it was just natural that we just take the pumpkins, we'll swap them with the turnip, and we'll we'll have this. And the kids in America used to do it. Why? Because Jack-o'-lantern was like a scary man. It was a scary story that you would tell kids who would misbehave. So the kids, they used to prank people with it. They'd get a pumpkin, they'd carve a hole in it, they'd put a candle light inside of it to signify an ember, a coal from hellfire. And then they would basically in the night just stick the pumpkin in someone's window to scare them. And that's how it started off. And then from that point onwards, Halloween became known as the day of pranks, the day of tricks, the day of just scaring people. And that's what it became, the day to scare people. The kids would just scare people. And then as the years progressed, the kids would start to do more messed up things. They would start to, on that day, they would smash people's windows. On that day, they would burn people's houses. On that day, they would take bars of soap and put them in the wheels of cars. So when the cars are driving, they'd become derailed and crash and people would get hurt. And then the pranks were just going up and up and up and up levels to the point where it became a very big problem to the government. And we're in the 1900s now. So they're the 1900s. So the American government is thinking this day, Halloween, is a day when kids run reckless. They would go to farms on the night of Halloween. They would smash the gates. So all of the cows and the horses and the chicken and the goat, they would just all run away. Now imagine overnight everyone in your farm leaves. That's it. You've lost all of your wealth. Your wealth is these animals. It's all gone now. So on this day, they were thinking to themselves, how are we going to control, how are we going to basically pacify these kids? How are we going to come and make it a day where they stop behaving this way? So then the police and the local authorities, they said, let's take the mood away from Halloween being the day of fear and it being the day of scaring and pranking to being the day of partying. So they introduced costume parties. They introduced dressing up parties. And for the first time, there was a party company, a novelty company called Denizens. You know, now you walk into Clinton's, right? You walk into all of these party shops, Hallmark, and you go all this Halloween stuff everywhere. You go to any party section. The first company to do that was a company called Denizens. They used to make manuals on Halloween every year of how you can turn Halloween into a big party. And they would hold parades, and people would wear masks. And from that point onwards, it became a massive day for kids. But still, all of the bad kids hadn't fixed up around the area. They hadn't fixed up around the area. So there was one particular area where the grandmas used to live. They said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to bribe these kids. We're going to tell them, listen, instead of smashing eggs in our windows or stoning our windows, we're going to give you candy-covered apples and popcorn balls and all these other treats. We're going to give them to you. And it worked. The kids preferred those little treats as opposed to the pranks and smashing the windows. So then this caught fire when the newspaper published it. And when the newspaper published it, around the whole country, whole of America, people started to do what? They started to run with this practice. Saying, tell the kids, instead of what? Tricking you, treat them. So then the kids will come knocking. Trick or treat. What do you want? Give me some candy. I'm going to stone your house. And then that's how it became trick or treat like that. And then it just went on and they started to make movies about Halloween and a big industry. So what was the reason for me telling you this? Was it to tell you a story? I told you at the beginning, الحكم على شيء فرع عن تصوره, that the ruling upon a matter is based on understanding it. So now that you've learned the history of Halloween, I'm asking you a question. Is this something that's founded in kufr and disbelief or not? You tell me. I'm asking you. I want to hear yes or no. Is it founded in kufr and disbelief? Yes. Louder. Yes. It is. So they're not celebrating it. If we take the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, when he said, "Man tashabbaha biqawmin fahuwa minhum," anyone who imitates a people is from them. And Ibn Taymiyyah, what did he say? He said, this imitation is based on what you imitate them on. If you imitate them in their kufr, then you're a kafir like them. And if you imitate them in their sin, then you're a sinner like them. So what is the foundations of this? Is the foundations of Halloween just sin, or is the foundations of Halloween kufr? So then now if you as a Muslim, you imitate the kuffar in their kufr, you are at risk of being a kafir yourself. It's very dangerous. It's very, very dangerous, my brothers and sisters. So these are things we need to stay very far away from. In fact, I'll tell you another hadith that's even more scary. Not more scary, but it adds on to this. Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As radiyallahu anhuma, and Ibn Taymiyyah brings this narration as al-Iqtida al-Sirat al-Mustaqim, where he said that anyone who participates in the festivals of the disbelievers, and he specifically mentioned a festival known as Nayruza, which was a Persian festival. But it applies to all festivals, whether it be Christmas, Easter, Mother's Day, Father's Day, any festival that comes from disbelievers. If you participate in it, he said you'll be resurrected with those people on the Day of Judgment. So you celebrate Halloween, then Jack, that kafir, who was so evil, you'll come out on the Day of Judgment with those people. You'll come out on the Day of Judgment with those people. Does that make sense? So for that reason, it's very important to stay away from this. Oh, wallahi, my brothers and my sisters, this is just one example of disbelief, man, of imitating the disbelievers that we as the Muslims have fallen into. But the question comes to mind, why? Why is it that the Muslims fell into imitating the disbelievers? Why do we imitate them to the point where we talk like them, we walk like them, we eat like them, we drink like them, we dress like them, we want to be like them, we think like them? Why? You know what it comes down to? And this is the point Ibn Taymiyyah mentioned in his kitab. He said it comes down to love. He said you love them. Can I imitate someone that I hate? Can I resemble? Can I emulate? Can I protect? Can I be like someone I hate? Imagine I told you there's a person who insults your mum every day. Every day he insults your mother. He insults your mother. Filthy things every day. Are you able to dress like him? Are you able to be like him? Can you follow in his footsteps? Can you behave like him? You can't. You can't, because you hate him. Because you love your mum. But like, what about the love of Allah? Do you not love Allah more than you love your mum? So if you love Allah more than you love your mum, that means anyone who violates the right of Allah, you would automatically hate them more than you hate someone who violated your mum. Like Allah said in the Quran, these people say, what? Allah is a son. They say, Allah, you have a son. Allah said, لَقَدْ جِئْتُمْ شَيْئًا إِدَّا. You said something filthy, something so disgusting. So disgusting that the sky wants to destroy itself, the earth wants to destroy itself, the mountains want to come crashing down because you say Allah had a son. So Allah is telling you they're swearing at me, they're insulting me, but you want to be like them. It's because you love them. And shall I tell you something? You know what the next stage is? After loving them, it naturally follows that you will begin to love their kufr. It will naturally progress from then onwards, that you will start to love their kufr. And how many Muslims do this? How many Muslims celebrate Christmas? How many Muslims will fight you and tell you no? What do you mean you can't celebrate Christmas? Christmas is a good day. Bring the family together. It's just a turkey dinner we're going to have. A chicken roast we're going to smack on a Sunday. That's what we're going to do. Look at that. They start to love it. But it's kufr. He tell you, no, it's not kufr. Of course, the kafir is not going to think kufr is kufr, is he? When I go to a Christian, I say, hey, bro, you're a disbeliever. He says, no, I'm not. I'm a believer in Jesus. Of course, he does not believe that disbelief is disbelief. So then they start to fight for the disbelief. Tell you Halloween is. Now you got people who are sheikhs. I call them fiqhs. They are fakes. What we call the milkshakes. They come in and they say, now what? You can celebrate Halloween. Passing fatwa, you can celebrate Halloween. Why? They just do it because they want followers and fans. They want people to make sure that they keep donating towards them, paying for their courses, their programs. They don't lose their subscribers and their likes online. But no man in his right mind, who has iman in his heart, can take what? The celebrating of this festival. And I'll be honest with you, brothers, I've spoken it to you guys before in the past, and I don't want to make anyone feel bad, but I'm going to mention it again. This is exactly what Nike comes down to, the discussion of Nike. Nike was a pagan god. This is not something that you could deny. The guy who founded Nike, his name is Nick something, he's got his own autobiography that he published last year. It's called Shoe Dog. I read it in there with my own eyes. He said, we chose the name Nike after the pagan god Nike. The Nike goddess of victory. We chose the name Nike based on that. But now you got brothers and sisters, they don't care. Why? Because it just looks good. It's fashion. You tell me, oh, this, that. You can talk about this, that, all you want. But you know what it is? If you love Tawheed and you love Allah so much, and you hate kufr and shirk so much, you cannot bring yourself to wear the name of a God besides Allah. You can't. You can't. No different. Wallahi, billahi, tallahi, wa rabbil Kaaba. I'm going to die and stand before Allah on the day of judgment. I'm telling you now, wearing Nike is no different to wearing Jesus on your t-shirt, or wearing Ganesh on your t-shirt, or wearing what? Rastafari on your t-shirt. And it's no different to wearing these things. And if an angel of death comes knocking on your door, and he takes your soul, and you're wearing Nike at that time, I'm very scared for you. Wallahi, I'm going to struggle to go sleep that night if I knew you died and you were wearing Nike that day. It's dangerous. It's dangerous, my brothers. It's dangerous. It comes down to the issue of Tawheed, the issue of imitating the kuffar. Like, do you think you can go back to a person back home? Go back to a person back home. My Sheikh, Ustad Abdurrahman Hassan, he told me something powerful. He told me when he goes back home to Somalia, he's got an auntie who lives in the village. She's a part of the village which is not connected to the city. They're like Bedouins. He said she didn't even shake his hand. His auntie, if she touches him or he drinks from the food, he drinks from her cup or eats from her cup, she will just not eat from it again. She will break it. Why? She says he came from the kuffar, the land of the kuffar, the dirty. Now obviously she's wrong. She shouldn't do that. But that's how the Muslims are who've been away from kufr. They've got no disconnect. They don't have a love for the kufr. They take it like that, like, you came from the kuffar. Dirty, bro. They don't wash their hands after they wee. They don't clean their bum after they bust a number 2. Just pulls his boxes back up. I can't be with that. That's the way they are. But you and me, you know why we're not like that? Because we're with them every day. We watch their shows, their TV shows. Subscribe to them. We watch all their shows on Netflix. All day, every day. If I tell you, pull out your phone right now and go to your WhatsApp, most of the people you're chatting to are kuffar. Most people you follow on Instagram are kuffar. Most people you subscribe to on YouTube are kuffar. Most of the people that you watch on a day-to-day basis are kuffar. You know what Imam Ahmad rahimahullah ta'ala used to do? You know, if you ever saw a disbeliever walking in front of him, if you ever saw a kafir walking in front of him, you know Imam Ahmad, we talk about Imam Ahmad, Imam Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, but you don't want to follow him. You don't want to be like him. What would he do if he saw a Nasrani, if he saw a kafir Nasrani in front of him? What would he do? He would cover his eyes. He was asked, why are you covering your eyes? Why are you covering your eyes? Why are you taking your hand and you're covering your eyes when you see a kafir? He used to say, he said, I don't have the ability to look at someone who is making lies about Allah. He said, I can't even look at him. He lies on Allah. He says Allah is a son. He says Allah doesn't exist. I can't look at him. I can't bear. It makes me too upset. You're lying about Allah. I can't look at that. Ya akhi, you couldn't even look at the kuffar. But me and you, we see a kafir, celebrity, oh my God, look at him, he's a footballer. Oh my God. You lose yourself. You lose yourself. It's happened because you started to love them. Wallahi, you know, the Prophet ﷺ, anytime he heard the kuffar were doing something, he would change. The Prophet ﷺ got a haircut one day. He got a haircut where he combed his hair in a particular way. He was told the Jews comb their hair in that way. The Prophet changed it straight away. No, I'm not going to comb my hair like the Jews. But me and you, we base our fashion on what? Kuffar. We say kafir. Oh my God, that's his haircut. Bruv, I'm getting that. If I look around the room, most of the haircuts that we have, where are they from? Most of us have been inspired by disbelievers. Most of us inspired by disbelievers. Been inspired by disbelievers. Everyone's trying to get waves nowadays. Now I'm not going to say waves are haram. I'm not saying they're haram. But I just want to know, where did you hear about waves from? Who brought it? Rappers and drug dealers. Oh, okay, that's you saw it and you like that? Like for me, it stops at he's a drug dealer. Okay, I'm not going to take anything from him. But me and you, we look at it like, oh yes. Yes. It's a problem. The Prophet ﷺ said after Dhuhr time, which is the Qaylula time, Prophet would take a nap. Why? He said because shaitan is awake at that time. Prophet said, go sleep. Imam Shaykh al-Albani, he authenticated it. Silsila Hadith al-Sahiha. If shaitan is awake, the Prophet said, go to sleep. Look at that. How much he does not want you to imitate the kuffar. He said, don't even be awake at the time that they're awake. He's awake. Shaitan's awake. Go to sleep. You must question, is there any act of worship after the shahada which is more important than the salah? Is there any act of worship more important than salah? I'm asking you a question. But then salah became haram for you at 3 times in the day. When the sun is rising, when the sun is setting, and right in the middle of the day. Just before dhuhr, the zenith. Why? Because those are the times where the people who worship the sun would come out and worship the sun. When the sun is rising, they say, oh, God came. Oh, when the sun is right on top at the time of the zenith, they say, oh, look, God is mighty. He's taken over the whole day. And when the sun is setting, just after Asr, they'll say, oh, look at that. God is going to sleep. Idiots, they used to think God slept. But the point here is that they worship the God, which is the sun. So then the salah, the first thing you'll be asked about on the day of judgment. The thing that if you leave the salah in its totality, you leave Islam. The Prophet said, Man tarakaha faqad kafar. Anyone who leaves the salah, he became a disbeliever. With its importance. The Prophet said everything, if the salah is good on the day of judgment, everything after it is good, and the salah is bad, everything after it is bad. With its importance and its might and all of its high virtue, the salah became haram for you in 3 times during the day. Why? Because that is the time where if you pray, you would be imitating a group of disbelievers who pray like that. They also take their head and they do sajda to the sun at that time. Do you know any sun worshippers, by the way? Has anyone ever met a sun worshipper? Have you ever met? Is it common? Does it happen much? But does the ruling stay? Even though they've gone, does the ruling stay? Does the ruling still remain, even though that they've gone, the sun worshippers? But then the question comes to mind is, then why is it that you have a double standard and you say, oh, but people don't worship Nike anymore? So if that's the case, then pray after Fajr. Pray when the sun's rising. You won't. Because the point is that was it once upon a time worship? Was the sun once upon a time worshipped by a group of people? Yes. Was Nike once upon a time worshipped? Yes. So look at that. Can't do it now. So look, acts of ibadat, the greatest ibadah after the shahadatain became haram for you because you might be imitating a kafir. But you want to imitate kuffar in fashion. You want to imitate kuffar in clothing. You want to imitate kuffar in the way that you walk, the way that you talk, everything. And then that will only lead to you imitating them in their kufr and their disbelief. Look, now the kids, what did they say? I swear on my mum's life. أعوذ بالله من ذلك. حلفت بغير الله. You took an oath on someone's name other than Allah. I swear on my mum's life, you took a qasam, you took an oath on someone else. You can only say wallahi. You can only say by Allah, you can only say I swear on Allah. You can't say I swear on anything other than Allah. That's shirk. That's shirk al-asghar. But you say mum's life, my mum's grave. Mums, now they say mums. Shirkiyat, brothers, coming out of your mouth. Shirkiyat, kufriyat is coming out of your mouth. The stuff that we have to be very careful of, and we have to stay very far away from. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Subhanaka wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.